Hi, everybody. Anthony Crane with Pocket Coach here. And today we are going to talk about the high performing team commitment. Let me get my 5-minute timer started. Okay. And I think this one will be 5 minutes, but let's see. So high performing team commitment experiment goes like this. The problem is it can be hard to become a high performing team if we don't all agree on what that even means or what that might look like. Now, some teams are just high performing somehow right out of the gate without very little effort. They just jive and they drive, they jive and they drive. Maybe that's a good slogan. But any team can become a high performing team with some simple tricks. So here's one of those. The hypothesis is that if we had a canned list and reviewed that canned list of what it means to be a high performing team, and then either used it as is or improved it and then used it, but then continued to grow it as we grew. And if we all verbally committed to that particular list, right? If we did that, then the chances are that we would become a high performing team because we made a verbal commitment to each other and we can hold each other accountable to that criteria that we agreed to up front. The time frame on this one is 6 weeks. So ask, pivot, or persevere every 2 weeks. Is this working for us or not? And I want to say, like, there's a TED talk about a guy who uses Agile with his family to run the household. And one of the things that he did was he had his kids write a manifesto, a family manifesto. And then when the kids misbehaved according to their own written manifesto, the dad could say, well, you guys wrote this manifesto and you guys are clearly breaking it. So is the manifesto wrong or do we need to change our own behaviors? And it's very hard for a kid to be like, oh, I did write that and I guess I shouldn't. So it's just kind of a cool way to hold people accountable for themselves as opposed to being, you wrote it, now you live it. The typical outcome here is that you will improve your team much faster because discussions about anti-patterns are going to be a whole lot easier. We previously did a recording on working agreements. It's another great experiment to create high-performing teams. Very similar here, right? This commitment to be a high-performing team is like a working agreement. So this should make it a lot easier to point out when we're not being strong. Finally, skill growth criteria. So how do you get there? Remember, the skill growth always tells you the specific steps. You have committed to a list of characteristics of a high performing team with your whole team, and you're living it and you're willing to call each other out on it when you deviate from it. Okay. So with no further ado, then I'm going to actually show you my list. Shoe Howery is another video that we'll be doing. My shoe for a high performing team. So this is what I come into the room with and then let them improve it or whatever. So high performing teams are experimental. They're always running an experiment. They are willing to collaborate on every piece of work. And by the way, these are other experiments in the Agile Shoebox or in the Pocket Coach app. Many of these are other experiments that you can learn how to run those. They self-organize. They don't have to be told what to do. They get going. They speak up. If you're in a room where everyone is always quiet, that is not a high-performing team. And if you are always quiet, you are not helping to become a high-performing team. Now, yeah, we don't want everybody gabbing all at once, but if you're a wallflower all the time, you might look to speak up more. On the other hand, if you're the one who's always talking, you might look to bring in people. Or I like to count to 5. I'm one of the talkers, right? So I like to count to 5 before I speak up, and that gives other people a chance to jump in before me. And if the people know I do that, I have to go to 10 because they all start counting to 5 because they don't want to have to speak up, right? You act without fear. Now, that's an organizational issue. If you're in a fear-based culture, we have to change that, and that's not something you can do. But if it's possible to act without fear, then you should be. You're willing to take any task as long as it gets us to the finish line. That's the T-shaped skill thing. We talked about that in a different video. You are transparent. I think we talked about this in the collective ownership. Yeah, in the collective ownership video, if you want to learn more about T-shaped skills. You're transparent about what you're working on. You don't hide stuff. You don't get grumpy that you have to make things visible. You're curious, right? You follow your curiosity. You trust each other. You respect each other. And when we are disrespectful, that people have the courage to act without fear and tell us, hey, Anthony, that was a little disrespectful. I have absolutely, now that I have this working agreement, been told by people I'm coaching that I was being disrespectful. And I immediately was like, thank you. I was embarrassed. I said, thank you. And I thought about, what I was doing and try to find a better way. And I loved it. I loved that my team had gotten to the point where they could say something to me like that. We have fun and laugh together. If you aren't laughing together, you're probably not a high performing team. You serve your stakeholders. They are the most important thing to you besides your own respect, right, for yourselves. You're open to changes and ideas. You're open that your ideas might be wrong. You have focus. You're able to focus on getting stuff done. You're willing to commit and then see how you did against that commitment and find ways to improve your. And so for this one, I like to call this my say-do ratio. So what I say is it what I do, and you can do that in private life. And you also welcome feedback. So that's it. If you are a high performing team, you do all these things. And I'll tell you more about the say-do ratio in a different video, but including a fun story. But that's my 5-minute time box. And that, my friends, is the high performing team experiment. Grab a list like this one, commit to it, have your whole team say, yep, we're in for it. Adjust it if you need to, adjust it as you go, and you will be able to become a high performing team if you aren't already one. I'm Anthony Crane, and I hope that you found this particular experiment useful. See you at the next one.